Hey everyone, Dan here. Just wanted to pop in real quick, give a quick little disclaimer on this first episode of the show, which is now called In Your Shoes. As of me recording this episode, though, I originally titled it with a grain of salt, which was the acronym of WAGOS, WAGOS. And then I went onto Spotify and saw that there was another podcast with the exact same name, exact same spelling, and I said, oh, well, looks like I can't use that one anymore. So I've officially changed the name to In Your Shoes, and you guys can enjoy it right now. So just ignore the fact that, I think I mentioned the title, the old title of the show, 6 times in this video. So just remember that this was recorded before I had to change the name of the show to now In Your Shoes. I'm very excited to show you guys this. It's been a long time coming, so just enjoy. How's it going, everybody? It's me, Trip Shoes, aka most of you guys know me as Dan at this point, and this is a new show that I'd like to introduce to the channel, kind of a short form podcast. It's a Q&A advice style show that I'm introducing to the channel where I answer questions from both my audience, twitch.tv/Trip Shoes, and just general advice questions that I find online that I think are interesting, that I have something to talk about. Now, I like this format a little bit better because I don't have to be on camera. I feel like it's a little bit more low stakes for me. So enjoy some American Truck Sim footage or whatever video game footage I decide to put in front of this this video here. So today we have 2 questions that our viewers submitted that both relate to a similar topic, and that topic being content creators. More specifically, content creators and their relationship with their audience / relevancy, and actually vice versa. Both questions kind of, in a weird way, kind of bounce off of each other. So without further ado, this was submitted to the Google form that I will include in the link down below. I'll include a link down below, I should say, where you guys can click that and submit a question. And I'll potentially answer it on one of these videos that I'm going to try to produce once a week. So question number 1. How do you navigate the fear of becoming irrelevant as a creator? As my community gets bigger, I have constant anxiety about losing my place as an artist. I'm constantly worried I'm easily replaceable. This is a fear that I think a lot of content creators have. In fact, I think most have it, and I feel like it's not going to say anybody should have it, but it's very normal in the sense that I don't know if I've necessarily felt it yet. I think it's something that kind of comes when you start to see some very serious success with your content, and I don't think I've quite found that just yet. But I do deal with that fear of becoming irrelevant, or I have constant anxiety. I do feel this a little bit, but it hasn't become such a prominent thing that it's prevented me from still wanting to create content. In fact, I've said it myself that no matter what happens, no matter the size of my audience, no matter, let's say I get really big someday and I blow up and I'm the next, I'm trying to think of a good example. In fact, question number 2 will tie in very well to why I'm struggling to find a good example of a creator that is very big right now that isn't in hot water. I understand this fear, but also at the same time, my desire to want to create content kind of outweighs it. I think no matter what, to some extent, I'm always going to have a presence on the internet, or at least I'm going to try. So as long as you guys still allow me to, I will try to always be as relevant, and maybe not relevant, but available online, frequent online. You guys will still see my streams, hopefully at least several times a week, no matter what happens in my life, no matter what changes. As I will mention that streaming isn't necessarily my full-time job. Content creation isn't necessarily my full-time job. I would love for it to one day become my full-time job. But as of right now, it's something that I'm trying to grow and work on myself. And I do understand this fear, though, and I do want to kind of circle back to the original point. And I understand as my community gets bigger, I think that I don't feel that fear as long as I'm growing. And as long as, I've had people come into my chat that were like long time viewers and stuff like that, that I thought were going to be there forever. And then, they phase out, but then new people come in. And I think the important thing to realize is if you're relatively small still, the point that I'm trying to make is if you're relatively small still, it's not worth getting worried about it. And I don't mean to sound like a just don't feel that way kind of thing, but it's a normal feeling to have, and it's a normal fear to have. But you'll find as you grow as a content creator, you sort of learn to make these sacrifices of understanding that certain people aren't going to stick around forever. They're not always going to love your content. In fact, I've had people that, have told me that I'm their favorite streamer, and then, they kind of phase out of the community, and that's okay. You don't have to stick around forever. The fear of being easily replaceable, though, because as to reiterate the question a little bit, I'm constantly worried I'm easily replaceable. It kind of ties into this thought that I had the other day while I was out driving, and it's like, the idea of being replaceable is not really a thing online. If you know how to cultivate an audience, and if you have cultivated an audience, I feel like people will always kind of circle back to you in some way or another. So as long as you stay consistent with what you do and you still enjoy doing it, I think the point that I'm trying to make, that I'm kind of maybe failing at making here, is that you shouldn't fear being replaced. You should fear not loving making content anymore. Whatever that content is, whether your content is creating art, making videos, streaming, whatever, music, whatever it is, you shouldn't fear this, because what you should fear is not loving doing it anymore and making it feel like an obligation. That is the thing that I fear personally, is that I have felt several times in my, my year and a half as a streamer at this point, almost 2 years actually, almost coming up on 2 years. My biggest fear isn't that. It's me not loving doing this anymore. So my whole point that I'm trying to make is I understand where you're coming from with this fear. And I think maybe it's one of those fears that comes on a little bit later, maybe as you get a little bit bigger and you find a lot more success. I guess the point that I'm trying to make, without trying to sound super blanket statement-y here, if you know what I mean, is that right now, I don't know who submitted this question. I don't know who they are. I had this, by the way, these are entirely anonymous. Do not identify yourselves whenever you submit a question. Your fear in the beginning, maybe not fear. Fear is a bad word to use. Ignore the fact that I even use the word fear. Your goal when you're first starting out is to love doing it. Because I don't think there's such thing as replaceability. So as long as you love making content, whatever it is that you do. Replaceability is, I don't think it's really a thing. I don't think that, every 3 years there's, this thing replace this thing. I'll use Smosh, for example. Smosh has been around, and granted, they're a big content creation brand, or whatever you want to say, company, They haven't been replaced. Nothing has replaced Smosh. They've kind of they've had their ebbs and flows and success and whatnot, but they're still around. And in fact, I think recently they've been really killing it with the content. I came back as a viewer, if I'm being so honest. I've started to enjoy their content again. But the idea of feeling replaceable on the internet really shouldn't be a fear, so as long as you still love doing what you do. Because I think that that's the thing that people can tell about you when you're creating content, is when you don't love doing it anymore. It's very prevalent from a viewer's perspective. So, not to sound like I'm kind of making a massive blanket statement here about your question, because this is a big question. It's a big fear that a lot of people have, and I've had it myself. I've had my moments where I've ended stream. I've, clicked end stream and I'm like, I'm done. Oh my God, it's over for me. Nobody wants to watch Trip Shoes anymore. I've had those moments. In fact, I had that relatively recently, if I'm being brutally honest, but I woke up the next morning, I was like, that was a this is my own mind speaking. I'm not saying you're dumb for thinking this, but that was a dumb thing for me to think. You know what I mean? Because I still love streaming. I still love entertaining people. And I think the important thing to combat that feeling that you feel is to just never lose your passion for doing it. And I know that's advice that everybody gives, is just always love doing it. It's easier said than done. I agree. It's way easier said than done. But again, like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt. That's where the title of the show comes from. Don't worry about this just yet. What you should worry about is still loving creating content. That's my closing remarks there, is that a lot of this, you know, you'll feel this sometimes. This feeling might come and go, and I understand. There's a part of the question that I want to reiterate, and that's, as my community gets bigger, I have constant anxiety about losing my place as an artist. That constant anxiety that you feel should come from a place of you still enjoy creating content. And I understand that, like, you know, you're never going to lose your place as an artist, so as long as you still love doing it. Because people are going to notice that you still love creating content. I always think about people who have been in the game for super long. For example, if you want an artist that I always think of Rubber Ross, or Ross O'Donovan, I believe is his full name, from Game Grumps. Most of you guys know him. He's still around. He's been around forever on the platform. He's been around, I think, since the earliest days of YouTube, and he's still around. He still loves doing what he does. And I always looked at him as somebody who, I'm not an artist myself. I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't do it, whatever that is, you know, digital art or whatever. I can barely throw together like a Canva, you know, file or whatever. But I always look to him as somebody who just never lost his passion for it. And that's what I have to say, is it's this feeling of being replaceable isn't as big of an issue that you might think it is. So that's my closing remarks there. I hope you got something out of that. That was a big ramble from me. It's going to be a lot for me to edit later, because I had to pause a lot in the middle to kind of collect my thoughts. Now, that first question dealt with from the perspective of a content creator. The second question has a little more to do with from an audience perspective. And I actually have a lot of thoughts on this next one, so I'm going to jump right into this one. This viewer included the name of a specific content creator who has relatively recently come under a bit of controversy. And I will be omitting the name of this content creator from this question just to kind of keep it a little more general, but I think it still is a pretty relatable question, and I want to kind of jump in here and give my 2 cents. I hate myself for even coming to this. Don't. It's okay. And I think I've read through this question previously, and I think it's a great question to ask anyways. Don't hate yourself for asking a question on this show. In fact, if I feel like it's not an appropriate question to answer, I just simply won't select it for a video. I have autism and attachment issues, so I can get attached to people / hyperfixations pretty easily that have the same personality as me. This specific content creator being one of them. I hate that I'm so attached to them and can't stop watching / listening to them. They make me happy, and I've been watching them since 2017. I tried leaving them, but I just keep coming back. But I can't. Oh boy. This is one that I have dealt with. This feeling is a feeling that I've dealt with for a very long time. This exact situation, I should say, is something that I've dealt with a lot. As somebody who's grown up on the internet. I'm 25 years old. My YouTube has been one of my primary sources of entertainment and relief ever since I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. I've been watching, like I said, Smosh in the previous question, since I was really little. And I've definitely dealt with this before with other content creators. Just, you know, you get very attached to them, and you tend to get drawn to content creators who have similar personalities to you. I won't name any specifics myself, but I definitely have dealt with this feeling before, and I understand where you're coming from. And it's like, Specifically, there's one sentence in here that's, I hate that I'm so attached to them and can't stop watching such listening to them. I've dealt with that before. And I know that in the past, there have been content creators who have fell under some pretty major controversies that I've liked, specifically when I was a little bit younger. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've been a bit better about, pushing those content creators out of, my daily rotation of whatever I watch. And I think that this is one of those things where you I think you're okay, And I understand that you realize that you tried to leave, you tried to distance yourself from this content creator, but you just keep going back, but you know that you can't anymore. And I think the point that I'm trying to make, and I don't know who you are, I don't know how young you are, I don't know anything about you, but as I've gotten older, I found that whenever I have to drop a content creator, whether it's a musician, it's happened a lot with musicians that I listen to, actors, companies that produce films, whatever it is that you feel that you need to distance yourself from or have come under some kind of fire. I think that it's important to understand that moving on from them is okay, because you will find other things that will fulfill that hole, that thing that you're missing from that content creator that you really like and really appreciate. And I've done this many times before, and I've always been like, whenever, let's say when I was like, I'm trying to think, like 15 years old, I really liked, actually a little bit younger, I want to say around 13 years old, I was really into Minecraft YouTubers. That was about a decade ago. You can kind of fill in the blanks as to who I might be talking about or what I might be talking about. That was about a decade ago now. Yeah, I had to drop a lot of them. I realized that a lot of them, they fell under fire. They weren't good people. But at the end of the day, I still watch YouTube. I still find content that I enjoy. And my whole point that I'm trying to make here is that it's okay to move on from something. In fact, you mentioned that you've been watching them since 2017. That wasn't too long ago. Yeah, I say that, maybe I sound really old saying that. That was, about 7 years ago now? Because it's 2024 as of recording this. And what I'm trying to say is that you will eventually find another content creator that fills that hole. Now, I understand that this question kind of contradicts the previous question about replaceability, which was in question number 1. And I kind of want to go back into that. And that's that replaceability is a little more of a factor when you've done something wrong to your audience. And I think that that is very much the case for this person that has been listed specifically in this question. And that's only something you should really worry. Replaceability, kind of going back to the first question, sorry to derail from your question. Replaceability is only something you should worry about so as long as you haven't done anything egregiously bad. So that's me circling back to the previous question. But I get it. I get this feeling. I've had to drop many content creators before, and the honest answer is that as long as you still have an interest in the internet and internet culture and whatnot, and I understand internet culture is changing. It's becoming a lot more, it's starting to feel a lot more like mainstream, mainstream, I don't want to say mainstream media, but, it's starting to feel a little bit more like this is becoming the mainstream, and that niche feeling that you got from finding a content creator who's still small and feeling like you're a part of a community is dwindling a little bit. I feel that myself sometimes. I look at a lot of the bigger creators out there and I'm like, that's not the YouTube that I grew up with, but there still are a lot of small creators that will fill that void, and you change as a person as you get older. You might find one day you wake up and you forget about the person that you're asking in this question, and you realize that maybe it was never, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to last, and that's okay. Maybe you'll find that one day with me. Maybe one day you'll wake up and you'll see that I went live on Twitch, and you'll go, "Oh, Trip Shoes, I remember that guy. He was pretty funny, but his content isn't for me anymore." And that's okay. It's okay. And I will also say that if you keep going back to watching older videos by whatever creator it is that's been fallen under some kind of controversy or scandal, that's okay too. I've done that many times before. I found myself going back to different, albums made by musicians that I have been, I guess, I hate the word canceled, but I guess you could say canceled, or have fallen under some significant controversy, because those things still meant something to me. And it's okay for those things to still mean something to you. That's perfectly fine. Those things that you experience, those things that you watched that comforted you, it's okay to still feel that way when you go back to watching them. I think the point that I'm trying to make is it's different, though, if you continue to support them. Continuing to support somebody like that is not the way to go. In fact, I think that if you don't morally feel right about it, you don't have to continue to support said person. But you can still look back fondly on those videos that, got you through tough times, those, just those funny moments that you watched with whoever it is. Again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I want this to apply to as many people, but also I don't want to name the name of this creator here. But you can try to picture in your head who I might be talking about. That's fine. Don't go commenting, guessing, is it so-and-so? Don't go doing that, please. But to round out the question here, I understand getting attached to a content creator. It happened a lot when I was a little bit younger. I feel like as I've gotten older, it hasn't been as big of a thing for me, as I'm a little bit quicker to drop people now. Again, I'm 25 years old. I'm also trying to build my own platform and build my own presence online. And for once, I'm not ashamed to admit that I am trying my best to build myself up here on YouTube and on Twitch, specifically more on Twitch, but I want to start making more stuff on YouTube. But that being said, to kind of summarize your question, you can still look back fondly on this creator and your time in their community, watching their videos, enjoying what they made, but also you can continue and choose not to support them going forward with newer endeavors. I think that you can do both of those things. I will say, for example, and again, I won't name what creator this is, but I will give a timeline. There was a content creator who I was a massive fan of him from, I want to say about 2017 actually, to about, I want to say 2020, 2021-ish. And I still look back fondly and sometimes still go back to those old videos that I watched that got me through some really tough times. It just put a smile on my face, made me laugh, but I also still don't keep up to date with what they do, and that's perfectly fine. You have free will is what I'm trying to say, but also I understand the idea of being so attached to somebody that you kind of can't let them go. But to that, I will say that there are so many other creators out there with amazing communities that are more than welcoming and would love to have you be a part of their community going forward, that will make amazing content. And I would like to think that the platform is changing. The platform, that being social media, the internet, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, is changing, that we are, hopefully these smaller creators that are coming out nowadays, that are building up their platforms right now, are, capable of understanding right from wrong. And obviously issues will come up with each community, but I like to think that things are going to change for the better. I want to be optimistic, but I understand right now with, some of the bigger names out there, without naming anybody, it seems a little bleak, and I understand that. But we're all along for the ride together, and we'll see things out. It's tough being on this platform. That's something that I will say is it's tough. It can be very difficult. You never know who somebody is, especially because it's the internet. I hope I answered your question. I hope I feel like I gave you a solid response without sounding too insulting or to either of the previously submitted questions. And we have a little more time left here. I want to keep this relatively short. I want to keep this under 30 minutes. We have one more question to round out the show. That is, this is a bonus question. Let's call it that, a bonus question. Something I've never told anyone. I play Minecraft with auto jump on. Should I be ashamed? Yes, absolutely. That being said, this is With a Grain of Salt. I've been your host, Dan, aka Trip Shoes. You guys can find me on Twitch every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. In fact, I have to go stream very shortly after this. I gotta make dinner and then start my stream. So if you want to go find me, I will put all my links down below in the description. And like I said, twitch.tv/TripShoes every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. Very, very excited to see maybe some new faces pop up in chat that find this video. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe you're coming from you're coming here from question number 2 and you don't watch me regularly and you're like, oh, well, I need a new community to join. Hey, I've got one that I've been cultivating myself right now. Okay, my dog needs to go eat dinner. She just jumped off my bed. All right, I'll see you guys. Thank you so much. Again, like I said, this is With a Grain of Salt. Take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm not a professional. And you have yourself a nice little dandy day. And also submit a question if you'd like to submit an advice question. Not every question will be submitted. There's also rules in the form. You'll see it. Okay, bye!